we'd gone for dinner with had left, but there was maybe like 5 or 6 of us left, and we'd paid our bill and we were getting up to leave, and the waiter came over and he said, "Oh, this gentleman at the bar wants to buy you sisters a drink," or whatever, you know. And we kind of made some comment, and it was a jumbled up conversation, but literally, like, basically he was like, we were kind of like, "Oh, really?" And kind of turned around and looked, and he's like, "Yeah, I was surprised," but I was like, you know, kind of like, okay. And the guy said to me, the waiter was saying, this guy said to me, you know who they are, right? And the waiter was like, "Yeah, of course," right? So he tells us this, he brings us drinks. We're like, "Oh man, we've got to drink these drinks now because somebody gave us a drink." Anyway, about halfway through the drinks, the waiter comes over, the guy who bought us the drinks come over, and he's an older gentleman, and you know, he comes up and starts talking to Sarah, and Sarah's like, "Thank you so much for the drinks," and he says, "Yeah, no problem, but actually I didn't mean for them to go to you." And these 2 girls come up and he says, "These 2 are sisters too, I meant to send them to them." We were like, "Thank you." Welcome back. Anyway, just got me thinking of funny, weird things that happen to you that it's not really your fault, but you still are very apologetic because you feel like it's your fault, even though it really had nothing to do with you. Like, nobody in that situation seemed to care. Like, he just went ahead and bought them 2 more drinks. And no, totally. No one cheersed, and then they all seemed to go home together. So it was. No. That's me. They did leave the bar together. I think they were smoking out. But the point is that they were so nice and lovely, and it was still such a lovely gesture, even though it wasn't intended for us. But I still felt like we had to apologize. And when buy us a drink, thank you. No, yeah, I mean, it was totally great. I was upset. So, but I went home last night and I was laying in bed as I was falling asleep. I was thinking about how weird Sarah and I are, that we always feel like we have to apologize for nothing. And
Canadian.
Anyway, I feel like I'm just telling you that because I felt like I needed to apologize for crying at the beginning of the show. So. I'm dedicating this song to all the other crybabies. Actually, I have to tell you something else now. Sorry, it's like a slippery slope. But last year on my birthday, I went to Hawaii, and it was so fun. It was my second vacation as an adult, and I had such a great time. But I didn't bring a cell phone or a computer, and so I felt a little detached on my birthday. And when we got up in the morning, I went down to the place where you rent the beach chairs and stuff. The guy who was serving me, he was a lovely gentleman, maybe in his 50s, and he looked at my ID and he said, "Oh my God, it's your birthday." And I was like, "I know." And he was like, "That's just amazing, that's so great." And he said, "My mom had 12 children. He said, I had 11 siblings, and my dad died when we were really young, and so my mom had to raise all 12 of us by herself." Like a fairly inappropriate response. I mean, she did a great job, apparently. The guy seemed really nice. But he said that it was really hard growing up. His mom worked 2 jobs, and all the kids had to help out, but that they never had a lot of money growing up, but that every time his mother would run into someone whose birthday it was, she would pull out her wallet and she would take $1 out and give it to them and say, pass this on or whatever, like, just have a great birthday, here's something, And as he's telling the story, he started to cry, and like my girlfriend and I were just standing there, and it was like really uncomfortable, and it was so emotional, but it was like he was visibly uncomfortable that he was crying, and he was like, oh, anyway, that's the end of the story, kind of thing. And then he turned around and he opened the cash register and he pulled out $1 and he gave it to me, and I like did exactly what I just did a few songs ago. I totally welled up, and I was like, "Oh my God, thank you, that's so wonderful." And then he was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so he turned around and went to close the cash register, and I overheard him say to himself, "Stop it, baby." And for the rest of the 10 days that I was there, every time we would see him, he'd be like, "Don't worry, I'm not gonna cry." That's me.